You've been there before. You're standing in front of the mirror, hair still damp from the shower, towels slipping off your shoulder as you lean in to apply your lipstick. Your phone is on the counter, screen lighting up every few seconds, but it's not him. It's never him when you're waiting. And yet, you can't help glancing, can't help feeling that familiar ache, because you know what it's like to give and give, to chase and reassure, to try so hard to be enough for a man who sometimes feels like he could take or leave you. And in that quiet, when you're brushing on color and trying to ignore the hollow in your chest, you've wondered, what is it that really pulls a man in? What makes him see me, want me, crave me so deeply that he couldn't imagine letting me go? The truth is, it's not what you think. It's not how perfect you look or how quickly you reply or how much you pour yourself into him. In fact, it's the opposite. The behaviors that men find most dangerously seductive are the ones that have nothing to do with chasing at all. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Amelia. She wasn't the loudest in the room. She wasn't trying to be noticed, but when she walked in, men noticed anyway. Not because of her dress or her makeup, but because of the way she carried herself, like she wasn't looking for anyone's approval. She laughed easily, spoke slowly, and when she looked at you, it felt like she was seeing past your surface. Men found themselves leaning in, wanting to earn her attention, not realizing why. It wasn't anything she forced. It was the quiet mystery of a woman who wasn't performing. That subtle indifference, that ability to be fully present without needing validation. It's intoxicating. And the more she lived from that place, the more men craved what they couldn't quite hold. See, men will never admit this out loud, but what draws them in the deepest is when a woman's energy is sovereign, when she is there, warm and open, but not desperate to be kept, when she can share her world without making him her world. That balance is rare, and because it's rare, it's powerful. I remember another woman, Clara. She told me once that she used to overcompensate in relationships. She'd over-explain, over-text, over-analyze. But the man she wanted always drifted away. Until she changed one thing. She stopped chasing and she started listening. Not to him, but to herself. She went to the gym because it made her feel alive. She joined a pottery class because she wanted to create with her hands. And slowly, she noticed men responding differently. They called more. They asked her questions. They leaned into her space instead of pulling away. Why? Because desire is born in the space between what is given freely and what must be earned. And here's where it gets dangerously seductive. Men don't obsess over what's predictable. They obsess over what feels just out of reach, not unavailable, but not owned. That moment when you smile and turn away, when you laugh with friends instead of hovering, when you're fully in your element without looking to see if he's watching, that's when his thoughts loop back to you long after you've left the room. The seduction isn't in the chase. It's in the restraint. It's in the ease of a woman who knows her worth so deeply she doesn't need to prove it. It's in the softness that doesn't collapse into neediness. It's in the mystery of a woman who could choose him but doesn't need to. And here's what makes it even more potent: when a man realizes he can't control it. He can't predict when you'll text. He can't guarantee your laughter will always be his. He can't own the fire in you that was burning long before he arrived. That's what keeps him up at night. That's what makes him check his phone and wonder. That's what men find dangerously seductive. You know what it feels like, don't you? That moment when you're lying awake at night staring at the ceiling, phone on your chest, heart waiting for a message that doesn't come. You scroll through old conversations, rereading lines as if the right one might reveal itself, as if hidden between those words is a clue to what he's really feeling. And somewhere inside, you whisper to yourself, why am I always the one who cares this much? You know the ache of giving too much, the quiet desperation of waiting to be chosen without having to beg for it. You know what it's like to show up with your whole heart, only to wonder if it was too much or not enough. And you don't always say it out loud, but I know you've thought it. What is it about me that makes me so easy to overlook? What is it about me that men take for granted until I'm gone? You keep these thoughts tucked away because you've learned how to smile in the daylight. You know how to be the friend who gives advice, the woman who looks strong, the one who says, I'm fine, when her chest is heavy with questions. But late at night, when no one is watching, your heart tells the truth. You wonder if men can feel the storm inside you. You wonder if they notice the way your laughter sometimes covers a wound. You wonder if they'll ever see you the way you long to be seen, not just as beautiful, not just as fun, but as irreplaceable. And deep down, you hold a secret. You don't want to chase. You don't want to convince. You don't want to fight for scraps of affection. What you want is simple. To be wanted with the same fire you give away so freely, to be chosen without question, to be the thought he can't shake, the voice he hears in silence, the presence he craves when the room is empty. Sometimes you replay the moment when it felt that way, that first date when his eyes never left yours, that night in the car when music was playing low and he touched your hand like it was the only thing that could anchor him to the world. Those moments live in you. Even when everything else falls apart, you cling to them because they remind you of what's possible, of what you deserve. But then comes the fear that maybe those moments were only temporary, that maybe love always starts with fire and ends with ashes, that maybe you are destined to always want more than a man is willing to give. So you hesitate. You silence your questions. You hide the parts of you that feel too needy, too much, too vulnerable. And every time you do, a little piece of you goes quiet. But still, you hope that the next man will see it. You hope he'll recognize that your softness is not weakness, that your care is not a trap, that your love is not something to be measured and rationed, but something to be met and matched. You hope he'll see the way your silence speaks louder than words. You hope he'll see the way your presence changes a room. You hope he'll notice the difference between you and the ones who only gave him fragments. And you wonder, will he ever understand that the most seductive thing about me isn't the way I look or the way I dress, but the way I can love without losing myself? Because that's the truth. You don't say out loud, you want him to be drawn to the woman you are when you're not chasing. The woman who doesn't bend herself into pieces. The woman who laughs when she feels joy, cries when she feels pain, and doesn't apologize for either. And though you try to bury it sometimes, I know this. You've imagined what it would feel like for a man to want you so much it scares him. To look at you and see not a convenience, not an option, but the center of his storm. You've imagined being the thought that interrupts his day, the reason he checks his phone, the silence he can't stand because it means you're not near. And part of you aches because you've tasted glimpses of it, but it never stays. So you ask yourself in the quiet, what will it take for him to see me? What will it take for him to feel for me what I've always felt for him? And the answer comes back in a whisper you can't ignore. Stop running, stop proving, stop chasing, just be. You've wondered about it, haven't you? That unexplainable pull some women seem to have. It's not about being the most beautiful in the room. It's not about having the most perfect body or the loudest laugh. And yet, there's something in the way they move, the way they exist, that makes men stop in their tracks. It's almost dangerous because it's not a trick you can copy or a script you can memorize. Energy, it's behavior, it's the way she lives without apology. And maybe you've asked yourself in the quiet moments, what makes her different from me? Why does she linger in his thoughts while I feel like I'm fading? Let me take you to a moment, a cafe in the middle of a busy city, the kind of place where the air smells of roasted coffee beans and rain-soaked pavement. People hurry in and out, umbrellas dripping, conversations blending into a low hum. At a corner table sits a woman with a notebook open, a pen twirling between her fingers. She's not dressed to impress. Just a sweater falling off one shoulder, hair tied up loosely, a smudge of ink on her hand. She's not looking around, she's not performing, she's absorbed in her own world, occasionally pausing to sip her coffee, lips curving into a smile only she knows the reason for. And at another table, a man notices. He notices not because she's demanding attention, but because she's not. Her focus, her stillness, the ease with which she belongs to herself, it's magnetic. He finds himself wondering, what is she writing? Who makes her smile like that? Would she even notice if I left this room? And in that wondering, desire is born. That's one of the first behaviors that men find dangerously seductive. A woman who is fully present in her own world, not waiting, not proving, not chasing, just living. But here's the loop you feel tightening in your chest. What happens when he approaches her? What happens when that energy, that quiet mystery, collides with his hunger to know more? I'll come back to her in a moment, because I want to take you somewhere else first. It's late evening, music plays low in the background, the kind of music that drifts like smoke. A group of friends are gathered in a living room, wine glasses half empty, laughter spilling out between stories. In the middle of the circle is another woman. She's not dominating the conversation, she's not the loudest voice, but when she speaks, the room shifts. She leans forward slightly, eyes bright, hands moving as if to paint her words into the air. She tells a story, simple, ordinary, about getting lost on her way to the bookstore that afternoon. But the way she tells it, with pauses that hold the group in suspense, with laughter that makes her own eyes water, makes everyone else lean in closer. And there's a man on the couch, watching, not just listening, watching. He notices the way her head tilts when she laughs, the way she touches her collarbone when she's trying to remember a detail, the way she makes everyone feel included. And in his mind, he thinks, she doesn't even realize what she's doing to me. Because that's another dangerously seductive behavior, a woman's ability to create connection without effort, to make the air around her feel warmer, to tell a story in a way that makes you forget the time. But here's the open loop. Does she know? Does she realize the power she holds, or is that power born precisely from the fact that she doesn't? And maybe you're starting to see it. Maybe you're remembering times when you've been that woman, even if just for a moment, when you were caught up in yourself, in your laughter, in your own joy, and you didn't notice the way he was staring, the way he was silent, meant he was memorizing everything about you. Those are the moments men never forget. You know the scene. You're sitting on your bed late at night, phone glowing in your hand, waiting for his name to appear. The room is quiet, but inside your chest, there's noise. 100 questions you don't want to ask out loud. Why hasn't he called? Did I say too much? Did I not say enough? Am I losing him? And while you're there, suspended between hope and fear, another thought slips in, the one you try to silence. Why am I always the one waiting to be chosen? You don't tell your friends that thought. You post your selfies, you laugh at the right jokes, you nod when they say you'll find the right one. But deep down, you carry it like a secret weight, This constant wondering if maybe you are too much, or not enough, or somehow both at once. And here's the thing most people don't say. Men can feel that. They can feel when you've made him the center of your worth. And nothing, not beauty, not effort, not sacrifice, is more repelling to a man than the sense that you don't belong to yourself. That's the deep truth I want you to hear tonight. The most dangerously seductive behavior a woman can ever have is belonging fully to herself. Not pretending, not playing hard to get, not manufacturing distance, but truly living from the conviction that she is whole, she is valuable, and she is not waiting for anyone to give her permission to exist. Because here's the paradox: the less you orbit around him, the more his world starts to spin around you. Think of two women. The first is Elena. Elena was in love with Daniel, and everyone knew it. She was radiant when he was around, anxious when he wasn't. She planned her life around his schedule, adjusted her voice to match his moods, and gave him all of her attention before he even asked. She thought, if I just love him enough, he'll see how good I am. But Daniel didn't see. The more Elena poured, the less he drank. The more she chased, the more he pulled back. And every time he pulled back, she doubled down. Her love became labor. Her care became currency. And still, he drifted. Then there's Clara. Clara loved too, but differently. She laughed with Daniel, she listened, she gave, but she also kept her rhythm. She went to the gym because it cleared her mind. She painted on weekends because it made her feel alive. She didn't answer every call, not because she was playing games, but because sometimes she was busy living. And Daniel felt it. He felt the gap between what she gave and what she kept. He felt the quiet confidence in her presence, a confidence that said, I like you, but I don't need you to breathe. And that unsettled him. It made him think of her when she wasn't there. It made him chase. Two women, same man, same desire, different results. The difference wasn't beauty, it wasn't charm, it was identity. Clara belonged to herself. Elena belonged to him. And men always find the first dangerously seductive and the second easy to leave. Let me put it to you this way. Have you ever walked into a room and felt drawn to someone before they even spoke? You couldn't explain why. It wasn't about their clothes or their features. It was about their presence. Something in the way they carried themselves made you lean in. That's what self-possession does. It's a frequency you broadcast without words. A woman who belongs to herself moves differently, not because she's trying to impress, but because she doesn't need to. And here's the revelation. Men are not addicted to the women who give them everything. They are addicted to the women who don't abandon themselves while giving. Because when a man sees a woman choosing herself, he realizes he has to choose her too, or lose her. And that possibility is what keeps him awake at night. Think about fire. What makes it mesmerizing isn't that it gives heat, it's that it's untouchable. You can warm your hands near it, but you can't grasp it without being burned. The moment you try to control it, it disappears. That's the essence of dangerous seduction. It's the refusal to collapse. It's being close enough to feel, but sovereign enough to never be captured. And maybe you've been the opposite. Maybe you've been water, pouring yourself into every container, taking the shape of his needs, flooding his world until he stopped noticing your presence. And maybe you thought, if I give more, he'll value me more. But water is only missed when it's gone. Fire is remembered long after it fades. So here's the shift I want you to feel deep in your bones. You are not attractive because of what you do for him. You are attractive because of who you are when you do nothing for him at all. The late night texts, the favors, the sacrifices, they don't make him fall. They only make him comfortable. What makes him fall is the realization that you are bigger than him, that your world existed before him and will exist after him, that your smile is not currency but overflow. And the moment you live from that truth, you stop being an option, you become the standard. So the next time you find yourself asking, why doesn't he see me? Stop. The question isn't whether he sees you. The question is whether you are seeing yourself. Because when you truly see yourself, when you belong to yourself, when you stop abandoning yourself for scraps, he has no choice but to feel the difference. Some men will run, let them, because the man who stays will not be seduced by what you gave away, but by what you refused to give up. And that refusal to abandon yourself is the female behavior men find most dangerously seductive. You've felt it before, haven't you? That moment when a man looks at you just a second longer than usual. You feel it in your stomach first, a quiet tightening, like maybe he just noticed something he can't explain. And for a moment you wonder, what is it about me right now that pulled him in? Because here's the truth. Men don't fall for women the way movies told us. It's not always the red dress or the perfect hair. Sometimes it's something much quieter, something you do without thinking, something so subtle it feels like a secret even you didn't know you were keeping. But here's the part no one tells you. The most dangerously seductive behaviors aren't the ones you try to control. They're the ones that slip out when you belong to yourself. Take this scene, a crowded restaurant Friday night, conversations blur, glasses clink, laughter bursts from every table. In the corner, a woman sits with her friend. She's not the loudest in the group. She's not even the one telling the story. But when she laughs, a real unguarded laugh that makes her eyes water and her hand pressed to her chest, the man at the next table feels it. He doesn't even know why he's watching. It's not rehearsed, not performed. It's just her joy, unfiltered. And suddenly he can't stop wondering, what else makes her laugh like that? Who gets to be close enough to see that smile again? That's the first loop joy without performance. But what you don't know yet is that joy isn't the end of the story. Because men are drawn in by more than your smile. Think of another scene, a bookstore on a rainy afternoon, shelves heavy with unread stories, the air rich with paper and dust. A woman stands in the poetry aisle, tracing her fingers along the spines. She pulls a book, flips a page, tilts her head just slightly as she reads. She doesn't notice the man 2 aisles away, watching the way she disappears into words. To him, she seems unreachable, not because she's ignoring him, but because she's too absorbed in her own world to need anyone else in it. And that's the next loop, absorption. The ability to live so fully in your own moment that you become a mystery. But what you don't know yet will change everything. Mystery isn't distance, it's alignment. And that's where the real power lives. Because here's what men won't say out loud. They crave a woman whose attention feels like a choice, not a default. When you're texting constantly, explaining, adjusting, proving, your attention becomes ordinary. But when you're rooted in your own rhythm, your presence becomes rare. And men don't obsess over what's ordinary. They obsess over what they feel lucky to touch. But here's the twist you don't see yet. The most dangerously seductive behavior isn't about being wanted. It's about being unforgettable. You felt it before? That quiet ache in your chest when you wonder why some women seem to have something men can't walk away from, while you spent nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if you were too much or not enough. It's not always beauty. It's not always charm. And you know this because you've seen women who weren't the prettiest in the room, weren't the loudest voice in the crowd, and yet men couldn't stop watching them, couldn't stop coming back, couldn't stop wondering about them long after they left. And in those moments of doubt, you've asked yourself, what is it she has that I don't? What makes her unforgettable while I feel invisible? You try to silence the thought. You go on with your day, put on the smile, answer the messages, pour love like water into hands that don't always hold it. But when the night is quiet, when it's just you and the glow of your phone, the questions return. And deep down, you've always known the truth. It's not about what you give him. It's about what you refuse to give up in yourself. Picture this. A cafe on a rainy afternoon, the hum of conversations, the steam of espresso machines, rain tapping against the glass. At a corner table, she sits with her notebook open, pen poised, hair falling loosely around her face. She's not dressed to impress. She's not looking around for validation. She's absorbed in her own world, occasionally smiling at a thought only she knows. And across the room, a man notices, not because she's trying, but because she isn't. He wonders what she's writing. He wonders who she's smiling about. He wonders if she would even notice him. And in that wondering, desire is born. But here's the part no one tells you. It's not just her beauty. It's not the sweater slipping off her shoulder. It's her self-possession, her ability to exist in her own orbit without needing someone else to anchor her. That is dangerously seductive. Now imagine this. A living room, crowded with friends, wine glasses scattered, laughter spilling out between stories. She's not the loudest voice. She doesn't dominate the room, but when she speaks, everything shifts. She tells a story, simple, ordinary, about the time she got lost on her way home. But the way she tells it, with pauses that pull you in, with laughter that lights her face, with the kind of presence that makes you feel like you're inside the story with her, suddenly everyone leans closer. And there's a man on the couch, watching her more than listening, watching the way her hands move as if painting the air, watching the way her eyes widen when she remembers a detail, watching the way she pulls everyone into her orbit without even knowing she's doing it. And he thinks to himself, she doesn't even realize how unforgettable she is. That is dangerously seductive. But here's what you don't know yet. It's not just joy or mystery or presence. It's something deeper. It's when you laugh without checking who's watching. It's when you set a boundary without anger, just certainty. It's when you walk away, not to punish him, but because you refuse to abandon yourself. Those are the moments men never forget. Because when you belong to yourself, you become fire. And fire is mesmerizing, not because it tries to be, but because it cannot be owned. Think of Elena. She chased, she poured. She tried to prove she was worth staying for. And every time she gave more, he gave less, until she was exhausted, carrying the weight of a love that should have been shared. Then think of Clara. Clara laughed with him, cared for him, but never abandoned herself for him. She had her own rhythm, her own joy, her own life. And he felt it, that she was there by choice, not by need, that if he didn't cherish her, she would be fine, that her world was whole, with or without him. And that realization unsettled him. It made him chase, it made him wonder, it made him value her. Two women, same man, same desire, different outcomes. The difference wasn't beauty, it wasn't charm, it was self-possession. And here's the revelation I need you to carry. The most dangerously seductive behavior a woman can have is refusing to abandon herself. Not silence as punishment, not distance as a game, but the quiet strength of a woman who knows, I am whole, I am rare, I am already enough. Men feel it. They feel it when your laugh belongs to you, not to their validation. They feel it when your boundaries are firm, not because you're angry, but because you respect yourself. They feel it when you love them, but you love yourself more. That's what makes you unforgivable. And maybe some men will run from it. Let them. Because the ones who stay will never forget it. They'll never forget the way you made them feel like they had to rise to deserve you. They'll never forget that you were never theirs to own, only theirs to honor. So when you ask yourself, what do men find dangerously seductive? The answer is not in what you perform for them, it's in what you keep for yourself. And that truth leads us here, to the line I want you to carry long after this ends. The most seductive thing about you was never what you gave him. It was what you refused to give away, the part of you that always belonged to yourself.